So far in this lesson, we have developed our understanding of two vocabulary words, organism and habitat. An organism being a living thing, habitat being where organisms live. We've delved a little bit deeper into habitats and understand that habitats have both living and non-living components to it that affect an organism. So today we're going to look at how the ecosystem as a whole is organized in terms of where organisms fit into each other, how habitats play a role. We're going to be looking at the overall structure. And we're going to use that using a triangle. At the very peak of our triangle, we have our organism, our one singular species. Me, I'm an organism. You're an organism. So, an organism is just one creature. Now, if we take that one organism, let's say we have a tiger, and we take all of the tigers that are in that ecosystem together, we go from one organism to a population. Now, a population is just all of the organisms living together that are the same species. You can have a population of tigers. You can have a population of chimpanzees. Think about population like we would as humans. The population of the city of Indianapolis is about, I think it's like 700,000 people. Might be closer to 1 million people. But when we talk about population, you're usually thinking about how many people live in a specific place. The population of the planet Earth is almost 7 billion people. The United States of America is almost 330 million people. Are we talking about dogs when I give you those numbers? No, we're just talking about specific people. And that's how we think about it in an ecosystem. I'm talking only about the tigers or only about the chimpanzees. However, we know that certain populations live with each other. For example, I have a dog. I have 2 cats as well. Okay? If I was to look at a bunch of populations together, then I'm starting to get into the idea of a community. So, in our example where we have tigers and chimpanzees, if a tiger gets hungry, what's a tiger going to eat? Well, it's going to eat whatever it can, right? And it may be that it happens to get a chimpanzee that day. Do they really eat each other? I don't know. But for the sake of argument, just bear with me. So when we start looking at how populations interact with each other, we're studying and looking at the idea of a community. It's just all the different populations. Now, note, I say populations. I'm only focused on the living organisms at this point. When we start looking at the organisms in their community and the habitat that interacts with it, the non-living part of it, that's when we really start getting into this idea of an ecosystem, our bottom tier of our pyramid. When we get to the idea of an ecosystem, we really find that everything is connected. And if we interact with one population, the other populations are going to respond. If we interact with the non-living part of that ecosystem, then the living parts of that ecosystem are going to also be affected. So, for example, let's look at Maplewood. Now, Maplewood has lots of organisms. You are a perfect example. However, you are a 6th grader. And if we look at all of the 6th graders here at Maplewood Elementary and we focus specifically on 6th graders, that's a population. We are all the same, 6th graders. We also have other populations in this building. We have populations of teachers. I'm not a 6th grader. I may have been in 6th grade at least 10 times at this point, but I am not a 6th grader. We have a population of 5th graders. We have a population of kindergartners. Now, this is a great example of where we have a lot of different species living together, interacting with each other. Now, when we start throwing in the non-living environment of it, that's when we get into the idea of including this place, Maplewood, the actual physical structure of the school. The building is not alive. However, the building does affect us, the populations. And this year specifically, when we're dealing with the coronavirus in particular, is really affecting how we do our business as school. So, to recap, our ecosystem is organized like a triangle. The very tip of the triangle where we only have one organism, the one organism, all of the like organisms become populations. And we got more species at this level. When we start looking at all of the populations together, all the different populations, that's when we start looking at the community, and then we tie everything together into the ecosystem when we look at the structure in which it lives. Now, everything interacts with each other. Great example is if we had a snow day, right? If we had a snow day and it's going to shut down Maplewood, it's a snow day for everybody in the building. It's not like 6th grade gets a snow day and 5th grade still has to come to school when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. Okay? You cannot affect one thing in isolation. If you do something, it's going to affect everything. And that, my friends, is called ecology. Once again, we got the idea of ology, right? We know that we're talking about studying something. Well, when we put the eco in there, we're studying how organisms interact with the environment. We're literally studying the environment and how everything interacts together. Have a good one.